Vámonos. Okay. Welcome everyone. This is Heritage Mezcal. I am Chava Peribán, and I am here today with Shak Zapata. Shak, welcome here.
Thank you for having me, Chava. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for being happy about this. Like I called you last minute, I think. It was just last week, and you said yes. I'm very happy about
I'm
that.
always up for mezcal, or whatever it has to do with mezcal. So
Well, I haven't even served you anything, so let's start that. Actually, I have something quite interesting to share with you. So bring me your cup, and we can start from there. This is a chumilin from Guerrero. I don't know if you ever had a chumilin.
No, never. It's the first time I hear it.
Great. So I hope you like it. It's one of my favorites. Today is like drinking all things with insects. It has a really special smell, right?
Yes.
Oh, I like it so much. This is from my friends of Sansecan. Cheers. Great way to start this.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it makes your chest bigger.
Open, yes. Nice.
Love
Beautiful. Guerrero.
Yeah, from close to Chilapa.
Okay.
But well, Shak, I invited you today because I had some few plans. I didn't tell you what we were going to talk about. And I want to talk to you about fermentation.
Nice.
So I've been doing this little experiment of, as you may know, agave needs to be fermented in order to create alcohol and to be distilled. Something that I believe the first time that I heard that coffee was being fermented was like, why?
Well, fermentation for me, it's I don't know, the way of creating most of the flavors we love in the world. So fermentation is not the only way, no, of course, but it's been getting people fascinated and drunk in the world centuries ago. So
well, that is right. I mean, and I think like a lot of the things that we acknowledge that are like complex stuff, like cheeses, coffee, cacao, alcohol, they do go through a process of fermentation.
Go through fermentation. Many of the things we love go through fermentation. So for me, it's been eye-opening fermentation. But yes, coffee does.
Well, and I didn't even introduce you. I always I just start talking with people. It's like, so you were the champion of the barista competition in Mexico in 2022.
That's right.
You were just competing in Greece in the World Championship of Baristas.
Yes.
And you have two coffee shops that I like a lot. Would you like to talk about them a little bit too, just for people to know them?
Yes, of course. I'm the co-founder of Cardinal, Casa Cardinal here in Mexico City. We have two coffee shops for the moment in Roma and Condesa neighborhoods, which are really hip right now. There's a lot of coffee and mezcal in those two neighborhoods. 9 years ago, the first one was Roma. I started as a barista, but right now I'm also a barista, of course. That's why I'm the champion. But I do all things coffee. I love coffee, and I try to do everything since cupping, a little bit of roasting, but I do everything coffee. And coffee was for me the thing that led me to love mezcal and many things, flavors, food, cocktails. But mezcal has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
And it was because of coffee, because coffee changed the way I think.
Love it. And again, like I feel like the way I want to think about this episode, it's you have the same process, the same thing that coffee and mezcal share, but they do very different things in both sides. And to be absolutely honest, I don't think I fully understand what fermentation does, because I think the very simple way to answer that in coffee will be it creates certain flavors.
Yes.
But beyond that, I'm completely in a loss. So to a neophyte like me, how would you describe the influence of fermentation? Is it a new thing? Is it an old thing? Like, can you give us a quick 101 in coffee, fermentation of coffee?
It is an old thing to start with. It is not something new. New ways of fermentation, new ways of fermenting coffee are of course new and really hip right now.
The maceration, carbonic macerations. All those things. Yeah.
Carbonic maceration is like the god right now of how to ferment coffee. But it has always been there. And a 101, I'm going to try to put it as simple as possible.
Please, and if you fail, Roy can just rewind it, and then we can get started.
Let's do an audiobook. To start with, you need a good source of things of what you're fermenting for whatever it is. Even if it's mezcal, even if it's coffee, you need something good to start with because you're gonna need a lot of sugar. And to have sugar, you need a good nutrition in the soil. You're gonna need a good harvest. So there's a lot of practices before fermentation that I don't want to miss because they're very important. Fermentation, it ain't magic. You can do magic with anything. You need those cards to make magic. Those cards are nutrition. How are you harvesting? How are you farming? So all of those.
I mean, that's amazing because I had never thought about that in the cherry of the coffee. Yes. If you have a cherry that it's simple, no sugars, then
what are you going to ferment? Because fermentation comes from sugars developing into another acids, into another kinds of proteins, into another things. And if you don't have sugars, if you don't have enough sugars, among other things, you're going to have no fermentation. I was talking about this with a very good producer, but most of it, he's a great fermenter. I don't know if that's a word. He's Samuel Ronson from Jico, Veracruz. He's a master in fermentation. And he was telling me that, yes, I am, but I do need the resource. I do need something to back up that fermentation. If I grabbed coffee that was not harvested or that didn't have the nutrition it needed, and I try to ferment it the best way I can, I ain't gonna have good thing.
So first, you as you're saying, you need to be really skillful at having a sugar-rich cherry.
Yes.
Then you have to harvest it in a way that you won't mess that sugar. How do you harvest well, not to mess with the sugar?
It's simple. When it's ripe, you harvest.
Okay. So
it may sound simple, but the thing is, many people didn't know that. Many producers, and they were harvesting whenever they wanted. Or because they were in a rush and they wanted to harvest the cherry when it was green, when it was not fully red.
The best price, probably somebody was buying.
Because the buyer is here and you need to sell, then you're gonna harvest. But that is gonna lower your quality, your cost.
Of course,
and that's something that we are trying to help teaching some producers that you need ripe cherries. And the name cherry is because it has to look like a cherry. When coffee grows, it's green. It's really it's hard and it's green, and it starts to go bigger and bigger and bigger and redder. It sometimes goes purple. It sometimes looks like a grape.
Okay.
And you need to feel when it's ready. You need to feel it, and it needs to be easy to take it off, to harvest it, to pick it.
Yeah.
And it's like when you know that dicho that when the apple is ready, it falls on you.
Yeah.
Something like that. Something like that. Yeah. It sounds easy, but it's hard because you need patience because that is money in the tree for the producer. That is something that he wants to sell.
To get out as fast as possible, really.
Yeah. so it's something that we've been dwelling on because you come to them and you tell them, no, wait, we ain't want the coffee yet. But why? Take it. We ain't want it yet. So,
but I even heard that some people will paint their nails in the color of the right color that should be ripe, and that's how they will because sometimes I'm guessing you're out in the fields, it gets hot, it's hard to gauge exactly what is ripe, so you need some markers, something that's guiding you, right?
Wow, I didn't hear about that, but that's a good starting point.
I thought that was a good
something
strategy.
I've done. It's sending pictures to the producers that it should look like this.
But then your cell phone maybe has different colors, and there's so much space there for.
And as you said, I've had the opportunity to do some picking my own, but I mean, let's be honest, I'm not a picker. A picker, it's hard work that I really, really want to pay tribute and homage to them because it's one of the most hard works in the world.
Oh, wow.
And it has been one of the works that people love to abandon. It's like, hey, want to do this or want to go to America to have, whatever.
Well, to work inside an office building, cleaning the floors, but
forget
you're not
America,
under the
Mexico
sun.
City. They will do it.
Yeah.
Because as you said, the sun, and maybe it's in a hill, and maybe you've been working for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours picking.
Insects, thorns.
You have this costal, this for your cherries, and it's getting heavier and heavier. So you're gonna say, okay, how can I look on each of the cherries?
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Absolutely. You just have to have like a great intuition.
Yes.
That has always to be sharp and spot on.
And do a lot of pickings because what producers were used to were doing 3 pickings in the year. And they did it 3 times a year and that's it. And what we're telling them is, no, you have to do it on the harvest season every day. And you have to go out for the cherries that are ripe. That maybe today they aren't, tomorrow they will be. So you have to go for them tomorrow.
They hate you. They hate you with an intense passion.
I know, but at the end you tell them you're gonna have this price.
Well, of course, yeah,
and it's obviously a better price.
No, but and it makes so much sense because it's a fruit that it's by the day.
Yes,
it's like it's peaking by the day. Yeah,
try doing a banana bread with a green banana. I don't think it's gonna taste great.
Yeah, maybe like as an extravaganza. But I get your point. Yeah,
yeah. So you have to start with that, and it's not only picking; it's also what are you giving to the soil? Because we may not see the roots of whatever we are harvesting, whatever we are farming, but the roots are very important. So is the water really staying in the soil or is it draining? What other trees are giving shade to? Is there carbon uptake? Or are there any other kind of trees that are helping us grabbing nutrients from the...
Yes, from the available,
from what is available. I've been learning a lot lately about how important it is to, putting chicharo. I don't know how to say.
Peace, yeah.
Because they they are really good in capturing. I believe it's carbon. I don't know what nutritions, and they give it to the soil.
And they fix it into the soil,
and it helps the tree, the coffee tree.
I mean, this whole old idea of the milpa of you have the beans to capture the nitrogen. You will put the corn and we'll use that nitrogen, right? So you are fixing and using, and using.
You did it better than me. That's the idea, and that's totally the idea.
Oh, but that's fascinating too because now I'm guessing that now the place where you're planting coffee, they're not uniquely about coffee. You're actually starting having more biodiverse sets, more like the milpa.
You said it. The more biodiverse it is, the best coffee you're going to have. The better coffee you're going to have, the more protected coffee you're going to have.
Why protected?
Because there are a lot of diseases that can kill the coffee or can affect coffee or can kill the tree or the quality of the tree, such as Roya. I'm losing the name in English. I'm so sorry. I'll Google it. But Roya it's really well known. It has been killing coffee trees all over the world, and a biodiverse environment will help prevent that.
Okay.
So it's not only about nourishing; it's also about protection.
And in terms of nourishment, and this is something that it's just hard for me to visualize. So, I guess, if you look at us like humans, if you have someone that is eating junk food, they might be big, but they are, let's say, not the best performing bodies out there. So you need a balanced diet in order to have a body that can, as you were telling us, as you play football 3 times a week. I cannot. I will get hurt immediately. So clearly you're a better, your nutrition is way better balanced than mine.
I hope.
But in terms of the flavors of the cherry, do you have any directions? Is there any nutrients that you want to put in there in order to influence the flavor in a certain direction? If you want it to be more acid, more sweet, more fruity, I don't know. Is that a way of thinking, or are you just trying to make it healthy as possible?
That's something new. That's as we're speaking, there are a lot of people doing research on what kind of nutrition can lead into a certain type of flavor, There's nothing to be done yet in relation to that. What I've learned is that if there's more shade, your coffee is going to grow slower. You need 60%, 70% shade for it to grow slower. You also need biodiversity, and it's all going to end up in more glucose. There's a lot of things going on inside the leaf, inside the cherry, that are going to lead to more glucose. And if you have more glucose, you're going to have more ingredients for fermentation.
Okay, so we're getting to fermentation.
Yeah,
So
now we're getting to
at some
fermentation.
moment we're getting there.
Because you were saying what kind of things can you do to that can lead into a certain kind of flavor. That's there's more to say about that, more certainty in fermentation than in nutrition.
Okay.
In nutrition, there's been a lot of research is being done, but in fermentation, there's more to talk about.
More reveal. I guess it's been explored with more precision to this day. Okay,
yes. Getting to fermentation, there are three main processes of fermentation for coffee that are going to lead to, in coffee business, we all know about them. It's washed coffee, natural coffee, and honey processed coffee. All of them three are the main roads you can have for fermentation. And they have a really high and very distinct impact in flavor. Those three, natural was, as its name says, it's the natural way of doing it. It was probably the first way they did fermented coffee. They didn't know they were fermenting coffee.
Okay.
You know?
So they were not going to the coffee shops back then.
No.
This is carbonic maceration, sir.
Exactly.
It's gonna have a bigger body. No.
So let's start with natural coffee. The way you do it, it's the natural way. You pick the coffee when it's ripe, fully ripe, and you put it to dry. That's it. Or you can put it to ferment, maybe, but the original, the main way is put it to dry.
Okay, so it's nothing like cacao where you throw it into like boxes or something. You just like take the cherry.
Yes, you can throw it into boxes because it's in a way the same. It's similar to, you're talking about cacao. What's the name? Fermentado. No?
Yeah, like fermented cacao. Yeah. So you can either just leave it on a flat surface, or you can like stack it up in some boxes.
If you stack it up, if it's all stacked up, so it's generating heat.
Okay.
So it's gonna ferment faster, and it's not really drying. It's like going through this humid and hot process.
That sounds delicious.
If you lay it, it's drying. More of it's drying because you're not generating heat.
Okay.
The thing is, when you do it the natural way, the cherry, the flesh, the pulp, it's keeping all of the mucilage, which is the sugars, in contact with the bean. So you have like a mini maceration, a mini carbonic maceration inside going of each bean, which is being kept by the pulp. I'm explaining myself?
Yeah. Like you have like sort of a, like, what will be a good analogy? You just have like sort of a, it's almost like a terrarium. You know, like when you have a terrarium and you enclose it, and then like this crazy amount of life starts sprouting inside. That's sort of like you have micro terrariums all over the place, right?
Yes. Okay. So it's really difficult to analyze in a scientific way what's going on inside that cherry, because the mucilage, the sugar, is in contact with the bean that is going to be roasted. The pulp also has an effect on them, and it starts to develop fermentation inside. It's going inside. The sugar is not outside. It starts drying, so it starts very fresh at the beginning, red, and it starts developing this kind of a purple color, more of a grape, more of a raisin.
Okay.
It ends up being like a raisin, a hard raisin, and it's all dried up.
Can you eat that?
It's delicious.
Yeah, I knew
delicious.
that. Oh, I see. I knew that.
Delicious. One of the best coffees I've had was a natural from Pepe Arguello in Chiapas, in Los Altos from Chiapas, in La Concordia. And we entered his drying station. He has like this amazing, huge drying station with a lot of African beds. African beds, it's the way of drying coffee, fermenting drying coffee. Under it has like this. It's not in the soil. It's not in the ground. It's up, so it can have aeration.
Yeah.
And I tried one of those cherries. Oh my god!
Really?
First of all, entering there, the smell. You know, it's like sweet, raisiny. I thought I was like swimming in raisins, you know, in granola and raisins.
Your childhood was like, why didn't they serve this to me?
And then I tried it. You, of course, cannot eat. You can chew it, but you cannot eat the seed. What you try is more of the flesh, the pulp. And it's like, it's...
I mean, a similar thing, I guess, is like when you're eating cooked agave, right?
Which was also an amazing experience. Yes.
Yeah, so like, I mean, you're saying this and I'm just thinking about right after they cook the agave, you're walking, all those smells are just bringing you in and you're swimming through them. Yeah.
You said it.
Sounds amazing. Okay.
So that's the way doing the natural. The thing is that there's a lot of variations because the producers can pick the cherry and put it in the ground, like that in the ground, putting them in boxes, put them in African beds, put them in another kind of petates,
just like woven fibers. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of producers do that because they don't have the resources to have an African bed, because African beds are made from maya and metal.
Just like metal frames, I guess.
Metal
like
frames
tubes.
and wood, and they don't have where to put it, so they will put it in a petate. And all of those changes in how it's dried, how it's fermented, is going to have an impact in the final flavor. So that's the thing.
And I'm guessing that there has to be a correlation between the quality of your cherry and the preferred style of fermentation. Like if you have a super sweet cherry, there might be a style of fermentation that will be a better match for a very sweet one than a not very sweet.
Yes, if you picked a not so good cherry because maybe it's underripe, or maybe this it's not coming well, why put the effort of putting it in an African bed? Maybe it's best to put it in a petate, and it's going to sell on a lower price because it's going to have a lower quality. The best thing is to do is obviously doing it on an African bed. I think that would be the
highest standard,
the highest standard right now, and doing a mix of shade and sun. You need some sun, but you don't want to dry it too quickly. You need to dry it slowly.
Oh, Lord. So, because obviously you're controlling the rate of fermentation depending on how much water there is, how much temperature. Like, okay.
Yes.
So, it starts to get difficult.
that coffee from Chiapas takes a month, the least.
A month to ferment.
Dry and ferment, yes.
That's insanity, no?
Yes.
Usually it's a little bit faster.
Yes. Usually it's a bit faster, but quality doesn't match up.
That's
because this producer has been 3 times Cup of Excellence in Mexico,
which is a very high price.
Standard.
Wait, and very important question that I didn't ask. In terms of varietals or species that you may want to be using for fermentation, is like your Robusta, your Typica, your different, is there a difference? Are some more prompt? Does some become better in fermentation than others? Or
I don't. I've heard about it. I've read about it, but I'm not. I don't feel that certainty to answer you that. I do know that all varieties should be treated the same way if you want to achieve a great cup, like picking ripe and these kind of processes. But there are some varieties that are not so good on its own, that you maybe want to do the natural way, because the natural process, it's gonna have more impact on flavor. It's gonna apply like some sweetness, like some
expand them.
It's gonna expand them. It's gonna give this coffee like a little bit of more volume.
Okay,
volume in terms of body, in terms of flavor, aroma. And sometimes you have such a beautiful variety that if you do it the natural process, you're gonna lose some of that distinctive qualities from that variety.
And I guess that will take us to washed.
That will take us to washed. Yeah, that's it. You said it. Washed would be the second way of doing it. Really famous one is the one that many people prefer in the world. Most of us, we don't know what kind of coffee we like, and sometimes it's washed because it's the kind of flavor that it's the common ground. It's not gonna have anything really funky that can give you the natural process. Think of wine a little bit. You've had natural wines.
Yeah,
they're a little bit more funky. They're a little bit more.
They have personalities that you might be problematic. Might be nice. They might speak too much. They might be. Yeah.
That's the same with coffee. Washed usually is not gonna surprise your common coffee drinker. It's gonna be it's coffee. While the natural can be like, what is this? Why does it smells like organic garbage? Like
Yeah. Well, does it smell like the apple that I left in my fridge for 2 days? Yeah.
We had that problem in Cardinal because when we opened, we said, let's serve natural in all of our espresso beverages, like this Americano latte. And a lot of people were saying like, what's with your coffee? Like, why does it taste like that? It's really strange.
This is not coffee.
This is not coffee. So that's kind of the thing between washed and natural. Although natural was first than washed.
Yeah.
But okay. So washed coffee, it's you're gonna pick the cherry when it's fully ripe.
Mm-hmm.
You may or may not do a little fermentation in the cherry with the pulp. But then the most traditional way of doing wash is you're gonna depulp it. You're gonna take out the pulp.
You press it. How do you like?
You have these
rollers, no?
These rollers.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at names, but
you can say it in Spanish and
no, that's the thing. I don't
okay.
even. Okay, depulp it. Despulpadora.
Despulpadora. Okay,
it's like obvious.
The pulper.
Depulper. It is depulper. So you take out the pulp, the flesh, and you end up with this sticky mess, which is obviously the bean, but it's surrounded by the mucilage, which is most of the sugars, like in a liquid jelly.
So it's like when you're eating like a ciruela or just like a prune.
Imagine you take out the flesh of the ciruela and you end up at the end with the seed, but you have all this.
Yeah. Like when you spit it, right? You ate the prune, you spit it, still full with a little bit of flesh. Yeah.
So at the end, what's really fermenting? It's obviously not the seed. It's like the mucilage. It's all of this sugar, but it's giving information. It's giving things to the seed. So that's the interesting thing about.
But it's more superficial, no? For what I mean, the way you describe the other one to how you describe this seems like more subtle.
Yeah.
Well, superficial, subtle.
It's gonna be subtle because a lot of things get lost. There's a lot of chemicals going out in the air. So if it's not enclosed, it's going to go in the air. And it's also obviously open. So it's hard to do a wash. You have to do a lot of work also with the washed coffee because you have to be constantly moving coffee. So you have like this homogeneous mass that it's fermenting as homogeneous as it can be, because if you let that coffee sit in a wood case with all of the mucilage, you're gonna have different temperatures in the layers. It's gonna be more hot probably on the bottom. And on the surface, gonna be more cold. More at room temperature. So fermentation at the bottom, it's gonna be faster and more intense than in the surface. You have to be moving it.
Man, you're blowing my mind because it's so similar to mezcal, huh? Like and like it's almost the difference like in terms of what you were describing before in natural when you're fermenting with fibers and then when you're just fermenting liquids. And actually, you also have to be moving la estás batiendo because you have the same problem. You are fermenting 1,000 liters and you have to have some homogeneity, around
phases and divisions. If you don't do that, you're gonna have different rates of fermentation inside the same mass, so it's not gonna be the best product you can give.
Well, it's a mess. You go roasted, and then like some are heavily fermented, some are not, and like you put all that in a bag, and like God knows what's gonna come out in every time you put an espresso.
And there's been times that when we've tried coffee that it's amazing. And we see producers doing things that we shouldn't. We think it shouldn't happen. Like this, he ferments like I let it in the case, and I don't worry about 2-3 days, and then I wash it. And you try it; it's amazing. But that's more because not only because of fermentation, but that's because he has a great seed, he has great nutrition, he has great terroir. But the next year, maybe he doesn't have the same coffee. That's the problem, because you need that kind of consistency in your process to yield great results.
Well, to have more control too, and to know that maybe, of course, it's going to be different every year, right?
Yes.
But to at least have a certain same quality, different flavors, I guess.
Yes. So the thing with washed coffee is you have this mucilage, you have these seeds, and you have to put it again, it depends on what are the capabilities of the producer, what you want to achieve. It can be a wood case. It can be stainless steel if you have the access to that.
And a lot of money, honestly, because they are expensive. Yes.
Some are doing bags, coffee bags. They seal it to have an enclosed environment.
So it's almost mimicking the natural way.
But like the bag is the pulp. They are doing some tambos, some cylinders, some
drums.
Yes. Some are doing carbonic maceration, which is injecting CO2 to get all of the oxygen out, and you have this enclosed environment, which is more controlled than in the air. They're doing some that they close it and they think they're doing carbonic maceration, but not, because you're leaving certain quantity of oxygen in there, that it's fighting with the CO2. So you have infinite.
Yeah, so variations can go forever.
For on and on and on and on. So it's wow.
So just to get this super clear in my head, because I was not aware of this. So a carbonic maceration always starts from a washed.
No, you can do you can also do it with cherry coffee.
So it seems like learning about coffee is as complicated as learning about mezcal, not just in one episode.
Yes, it's not gonna. As I said, we can do an audiobook, because I've seen everything, and maybe someone can. You can have a bag of washed coffee, and the way it was processed, it was picked with the pulp. They did a carbonic maceration with the cherry, complete the pulp, and then they depulp it, and then they dry it. So it's kind of what is that? Is that a wash? Is that a natural? So you're like in between.
So interesting. Okay. So there's hybrids in all.
There's hybrids because there's no one saying this is wash, this is natural. There's not an international standard.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And for such an organized industry as coffee is, right? I mean, at least to my eyes, yeah.
I was talking with Brazilian producers once, and I was telling them, but that's natural. No, that's washed. Oh.
Okay.
Obrigado.
If you say so, yeah, obrigado.
We were like, that's what that day I thought, there's no standard. It depends on cultural things. It depends on the producer. It depends on a lot of things.
What story they're telling you, what story you want to hear.
Yeah. But the thing I know, it's if you're going to call it carbonic maceration, you need to have the right tools to inject CO2. Yeah.
To displace the oxygen. Yes. And then finally, we get to the weirdest of them all, if I understand it correctly. Yeah.
I think it's the worst name of all, because imagine you run a coffee shop and we have honey coffee, and this 16-year-old girl is like, oh yes, it's going to taste like honey. And it tastes nothing like honey.
Yeah.
It's like a hybrid between the two of them. It's for my knowledge, it's the most, it's the newest one.
Yeah,
Am I doing?
Yeah.
For any English speakers, I'm sorry if I'm doing.
I mean, that's why I like this podcast, because we're both Mexican, trying to figure out how to speak English properly with all these technicalities. Yeah. So yeah, like bear with us, kids. Yeah.
And it's a hybrid because you pick the coffee when it's fully ripe, as it should be, and then you depulp it, but not completely. Or you can do it completely. That's the thing. Let me start with, you have honey, but you also have colors in honey. You have red, black honey, yellow honey, white honey, which it doesn't also have a standard. So don't get me into that.
Yeah.
And it depends on the quantity of flesh, of pulp you're leaving in the cherry, because you can calibrate the depulper to leave certain amount of flesh, certain amount of pulp.
So it's a little bit like in sake, how much you clean the rice.
Yes.
And
I love that you have examples regarding alcohol about everything. That's it.
I'm always just thinking about alcohol.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you can remove all of the flesh, but instead of fermenting in some kind of a case or in some kind of a pallet or whatever, you put it to dry. Because we skipped a part of the wash, which is after fermenting, in whatever you put it, you have to wash it, which you didn't do in the natural.
Okay, in the natural.
So you have to wash it, and you use a lot of water. That's why it's called wash, to take out all of the remaining mucilage until you leave it dry. That's why you call it washed.
And the natural just naturally...
And the natural, you leave it that way, it's going to dry that way. And then in the way, before roasting, it needs to be morteado, which is it's kind of depulping, but you need a different calibration to take out that dry kind of erasing.
But without water.
Without water.
Interesting. Okay.
And with the water one, after fermentation, it depends on the time of temperature, processes, whatever, you need to wash it.
Okay,
and then dry it.
Oof. Okay, washing sounds like a pain.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of water.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like also the sustainability front, I guess.
So there are many towns, not only in Mexico, but around the world that don't have access to many water or don't have access to water at all. So they only can do natural or...
And it's also that water is not clean after it's being used.
That's one of the main problems because that water, the producer takes it back and then throws it into a river and throws it to its own terroir, whatever, and it's contaminating.
It has so much organic matter, so you throw it to the river, it's gonna have all these bacteria, it's gonna make it oxygen starved, and you're gonna kill the river. Yes. Yeah, and you throw it to your land, and you might create funguses and all kinds of weird stuff.
I've been acknowledging many in the past years about cases about that particular problem that I'm blown away. So a lot of information needs to be spread.
Yeah, and sure, and like to tell even communities, right? Like these are the problems that come with these kind of production systems.
Yes. So honey process, you take out certain amount depending on what you're looking for, and you don't put it to ferment in a case. You don't put it to ferment anywhere. You put it to dry. So the mucilage, usually the drying process in the natural and in the wash, there's no mucilage in the drying stage. So since there is mucilage in the drying of the honey, it's gonna get sticky because of the sun. So coffee is going to start to like one seed go into the other, like it's gonna crumble.
Yeah, like
it's gonna look like
these candies that they sell. Like what's the name of those guys? The guys that sell merengues.
Yes, and also like the cacahuate and piloncillo. Right? What's the fucking...
Okay, well, we'll get to it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why they call it honey, because it looks like you dripped honey over to coffee and it's sold.
Oh, okay. Finally, I get why the name is there. Okay.
And the producer needs to break those crumbles, break those pieces, and put the coffee like.
But by hand.
By hand. I don't know. Probably Brazilians have some weird
super
machine,
high-end stuff, yeah, right?
That can uncrumble that. But yes, they do it by hand because you can't muéganos.
Yeah, like
muéganos. That's it, like muéganos. And you can't leave the coffee that way. You need like every seed spread on its own. So you need to be cleaning it. The names come from if you didn't leave any pulp on it, you only put it to dry with the mucilage, it's gonna be like white honey. Because it's going to have the end product, which is the coffee in a case, the seed in a case that it's called oh my God.
We're drinking, so maybe that's not helping.
No, that's me always.
Okay.
Okay. It's going to look kind of clean, whitish. Not white, but it's gonna look clean, and the more pulp you leave on the bean, it's gonna look like darker and darker and darker. So it's gonna look like, as I said, yellow honey, black honey. Black honey, it's gonna be the one that it's almost like a natural because you left a lot of pulp on it. That's why the changes of the name.
Fascinating. And I guess the
pergamino. I'm sorry. Pergamino.
Yes.
That's the enclosing, the thing that it's the fiber that it's covering the seed. After all of this process is done, it ends up with the pergamino.
And that's the last process usually, right? Like to take the pergamino out.
You take the pergamino out before roasting.
Yeah, and that's like sort of protecting your bean during transportation, that blows my mind because, in alcohol, they finish doing the spirit, you bottle it, that thing is stable. It can travel the planet and it doesn't matter if it travels today, travels in 5 years, it's done. It's only going to get better.
Yeah.
But you guys are working with a living entity that it's only protected by this tiny, tiny, tiny little skin.
Yes.
That a lot of times they have to take it off before they ship it across the planet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the last layer of protection,
It's
you
gone.
take it off, you put it in the ship, goes for 3 months, you make your prayers, and like...
Yeah, it's like going to a drunken party without a cell phone.
That is awesome.
You're lost.
I do
It's
that a
up to
lot.
you.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's the difference. It's huge. It's like it's. I believe. I don't know if I'm right, but I believe that without the pergamino, it's like 1 month you should be using it. Within 1 month, 2 months,
should be roasting it.
You should be roasting it, and the pergamino can last up to 3 months.
Okay.
And obviously other conditions of where it's stored.
Humidity and
temperature. It cannot be mixed with other things, whatever, and so on. So yes, the pergamino is really important. And sometimes the roasters around the world don't have the machine or they don't want that cost. So it has to be sold that way.
So they sell it. I mean, I love that joke. I'm going to use that a lot. Good Lord. And I guess the obliged question here is like, I know it's such a silly question. I should stop asking that to the people that come to the podcast. But do you have I guess the answer is going to be depends. But from these last years, let's say 2023, which of these processes have given you the coffees that you like the most, or there's no simple way to?
No, there's no simple way. I don't know if I think that's personal. I do know a lot of cuppers. Cuppers are the people that are qualified to give grades to coffee by tasting it. There's an institute and so on. There are a lot of cuppers and coffee buyers, mostly from America and from United States and from Canada and from Europe. Most of them that I knew that were against natural coffee because in the way they learned, the way they were
brought up,
educated, that was a mistake. That was a flawed product. And I get it because if you don't take care of the natural process, you can end up with a really, really...
Which happens with natural wine. Sometimes they say, oh, this is funky. No, this is broken. I'm sorry. Broken. Yeah, like...
Yeah, the line is really, really thin sometimes.
Yeah.
So is this okay or this is not okay? You can get like vinegar acidity and...
I mean, mezcal happens all the time. There's like, try this thing you've never tried. Yeah, that's actually completely disgusting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, or chemicals,
Don't use the word funky to justify a mess. Yeah.
That's the best example. So there are some cultural factors or educational factors that come into that answer. But for me, that I'm from a producing country, that I have been with, I don't know, blessed with tasting all of these coffees. It depends, like on the story, it depends on what you ask me, because I've had fantastic naturals and fantastic washed coffees. I haven't had fantastic honey coffees.
Oh, no?
No honey coffee has ever conquered my heart.
Really?
No.
But it's like very trendy, if I am not mistaken. Like sometimes when I walk into coffee shops, like, yeah, we have our wash, we have our natural, but we have our honey.
Really?
Yeah. They look at me straight into the eye.
I kind of relate to that, maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
Lately, I haven't sensed that. But in Cardinal, we have always been like, we do like honey. We do like offering great honey processed coffee. We try to have the best because we always try to have the 3 processes, like, as a showcase. Mm. But no honey coffee has conquered my heart. I don't know why. I don't know. It's like you're so in between. Like,
I mean, you're still young, Shak. You have a long life to live.
Yeah, maybe I can find it.
Yeah.
But coffees that have conquered my heart, I can say have been naturals. The one from Pepe Arguello, it was 2018. I had the chance to harvest with him, like in 5 in the morning. It was the sun was coming out, and those cherries are like so big and so purple. They look more of a grape than a cherry. And that coffee was just amazing.
Well, you also have such a special connection to that. Come on, you're telling me a love story. Like, there's no way you can evaluate that with the same idea.
And the second one is the one that I won with the national championship and that I took to Greece. That is a geisha from a biodynamic farm, which is El Equimite, which is such a story that I'm really I have a bond with that farm. I have a bond. It's like I do have a relationship with that coffee. Okay, I see it that way.
Well, and you brought a little bit of that for you as a gift.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm very honored. I'll enjoy the.
That's one of the best coffees in Mexico that you're having. So I can say
I don't deserve it.
No, you do deserve it. But I can say it without the hard thing, without the love. It is a great coffee. It is like one of the best coffees in the world. It has been amazing.
Well, you wouldn't feel love for something that you didn't think is exceptional.
Of course.
So, I mean, it's one for the other. It's all connected.
But since you're saying that, I've always said that those connections are really important, and sometimes we forget about them from the consumer point of view and from the I don't know, you can say bartender, barista, restaurateur point of view, that memories do have an impact. Why are we only selling brands? Why are not we selling what's behind that brand? Or what's behind this cocktail? Or what's behind this mezcal? Because it has such a big impact in people that can overlap other things, you know?
And more when they're coming from places that people, I mean, we're in Mexico City. People from all around Mexico come to the city. So you're from Chiapas, you're from Veracruz, you're from Estado de Mexico, from Michoacán, and you get to try a coffee from where you had to leave to come and work to the city. And that taught, like, I mean, there's few things that are more powerful than that. And then you're in the US and you get to try that. I mean, that has to be an absolutely amazing experience.
Wow, yes.
So yeah, like just from something as simple as that, right?
Yes, of course.
No, it's amazing. Shak, if we keep on talking, this is going to be the longest ever. It's already the longest ever recorded.
Really?
Yeah. We've never gone this long. I still want to do another episode with you.
Of course.
So I think we should stop this. But man, this was amazing. Like it's so different when you read something and when you try to educate yourself in front of your computer and YouTube videos than when you actually get the chance to talk to somebody that knows so much as you.
Yes.
And you get to like ping pong some of the ideas. So thank you very much. Like this is.
Thank you, Chava. It has been my pleasure.
Cheers. I think you finished your mezcal, but I'll serve you a little bit more soon. See ya. Now what I really want to do is a coffee mezcal trip, visiting both fermentations in one shot, to smell and touch them, to try their immediate results, and to further explore the many points of contact that I am sure we still don't know about. All sounds and music are responsibility of Roy Sierra. Un cafecito por favor, nos vemos bien pronto.